Welcome to NinjaCast, a photography podcast powered by Studio Ninja, the world's highest rated business management app, built specifically for photographers. Listen and learn as the most successful photographers on the planet share their knowledge to help you transform every element of your photography business. Here's your host, Sally Shaw.
Hi guys, welcome to NinjaCast. Today I'm joined by the lovely Prue Aja. Now today Prue's going to be covering everything to do with personal brands, having confidence in charging your self-worth, and how you can really make your business work for you. Let's get started. Hi Prue, how are you?
Hello Sally, I'm good, thank you.
Good, thank you so much for joining me today. I know that your schedule is crazy busy, so I really appreciate you carving out the time and coming and chatting with us on here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I feel honoured to be a part of the podcast.
Oh, that's so lovely. So, Prue, for our guests that perhaps haven't heard of you before, they're not quite sure what you do, who you are, can you give us a little bit of background, a bit of your history up to now?
Yeah, sure. So I am a personal branding photographer based here in Australia, but I have shot overseas, and I work with business leaders, entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches to create their personal branding images for their PR, and more recently have become a business coach and mentor for other photographers, and now also coaching and helping people with their personal brands as well.
Amazing. Wow. It sounds like you've got a kind of a myriad of things going on, but all kind of under the same roof.
Yeah, so it has merged. I started off, it's kind of funny when I look back at the history of how I got to where I am today. I actually took my first photo when I was 2 years old, and it was actually of it was a clip-on koala. So we've got these little clip-on koalas in Australia, and I put it on a house plant, and I just loved National Geographic, and I thought I want to shoot for National Geographic when I'm older. And then in my teenage years, I grew up in a beach town, Byron Bay, which most people have heard of these days. And I used to do fashion shoots with my friends down the beach, and thought, you know what, I definitely want to be a photographer. But by the time I came to graduating school and working out what I wanted to do, I found it very intimidating. It was quite male dominant back then. I was like, oh, that's way too scary. I'm going to study fashion design. And once I graduated, I went very quickly from being in fashion PR to being a fashion stylist, and then working with some of the world's best fashion photographers in Sydney and over in London as well. And after that, I came back to Australia and decided, you know what, I'm just naturally gravitating to photography, and decided to come and study photography at RMIT in Melbourne. And I didn't want to shoot fashion because I kind of have done my thing with that, but I did want to bring the fashion into my photography and shoot people. So I really admired people that were making a big impact in the world, making a difference and a change. And I saw that they had very boring corporate portraits. And I'm like, why don't these people have amazing stylized portraits? And then realized it's a thing called personal branding. So I brought my love of fashion and business and started doing personal branding portraits. So that was 12 years ago. And then I found people were always coming to me for business advice, and so I thought, you know, I really love talking about business and how I created the business that I have. And during the lockdowns and COVID times, I decided to build a business course for photographers and help them build a business like I have.
Amazing. Gosh, it sounds like you've had such a jam-packed journey, but what a way to bring you into branding photography. That's incredible. So, I mean, I think totally, especially over here in the UK, branding photography as in for a business owner, I don't think is not a priority, but it's not the first thing business owners think about. It's not something, even, you know, I'm a wedding photographer. I've been doing it for 8+ years now. I don't have my own branding photos, I don't have my own headshots, and it's criminal when you think about it and you say, but you're a photographer, how can you not have these? But I don't know so many people that don't. So this is going to be really interesting for me, but also for listeners, you know, especially over the pond here. It's not something that's that I've ever thought about in the last 8 years, for sure. So
Wow.
let's start from the beginning then. Why is it important to have a personal brand, to have those shots of yourself that I guess kind of sell your business for you?
Well, you just answered it then because it sells your business for you. And, photography is such a personal thing, whether it is for someone's wedding or it's for someone's business or taking someone's personal branding portraits. That connection between the photographer and the client, you're capturing them in a vulnerable way or capturing the gifts that they've made for the world. And so they want to make sure that they connect with who you are and your values and your goals and that everything aligns. And I think sharing your story and being really clear and creating a niche or a niche, as I say in America, around what you do allows you to become recognizable and grow your brand a lot quicker as well. And so more work gets referred to you through word of mouth. And then also on your social media, instead of just posting photos of what you actually do, sharing why you do what you do and how you do it and behind the scenes. And that allows people to connect. Like I've had a lot of people reach out to me because they just read my bio on my website and said, oh, I really, my values in my business align with what you do and I would love to work with you. So it's not just about the photos, but it's about who you are and what you bring to the table.
Yeah, definitely. A picture speaks 1,000 words, right? And I think as photographers, especially on my side of things, I'm so concentrated on, the pictures that I'm creating for other people. I'd never even stop to think that actually people don't see photos of me. They don't see who's behind those creations.
Will this maybe change your mind about doing that and putting yourself out there a bit more?
I'm one of those typical people that I'd rather be behind the camera than in front of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, every business owner has got to push themselves in some way or another, haven't they, with their business. So I think, maybe getting a personal brand and having some branding photos done is my way. I mean, starting from kind of where we've just spoken about there, where it's important, it's going to speak to your clients in a different way. How do you go about even growing your own personal brand? How do you go about starting that process?
For me, studying my personal brand was being really clear about what it is that I do. So tying in that the fashion background with my photography, my love of business and my love of people, and developing this personal branding thing, which wasn't a word thrown around much in 2010. That's what became unique about me and my story as well. So when people asked, instead of just saying, when they asked what I did, and so what do you do? And you just say a photographer, and people usually assume you're a wedding or family portrait photographer. So I would say, oh, I'm a personal branding photographer. Actually, my brand statement then was, I bring your vision to life, because I really like to tap into what is the vision people have for their life and their business. Where do they want to go? And create images to elevate them into that place. And so, yeah, it was like being able to translate what they had in their head for the world to see. And so I think having that really clear brand statement about what you do, who you do it for, and what they achieve from working with you makes you super memorable, because when someone would meet me and I would say that, they would then go, oh, I know someone that just wrote a book and they need a photo for the cover. Or I know someone that's a speaker and they need new website images. So they know how to refer you work. And that's how you become very recognizable and memorable as well, because you've got a clear brand and personal brand. And then of course you tie in your personality and all the other elements, like how you present yourself. So I did a lot of networking, and I know networking can be a dirty word and make people want to cringe, but to be honest, 75% of my business, and I know this from looking at the lead little pie chart in Studio Ninja, comes from word of mouth. And so building those relationships so that people really know who I am, and I refer them work, they refer me work, and building your brand that way, among lots of other things as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, marketing is such a huge topic, isn't it? But I mean, word of mouth is probably the most organic, natural it's the thing we all aim for. Of course, we want to be referred to other people, naturally, and someone say, yeah, this person's awesome, you need to go with them.
Yeah, and so that means by the time they've even gone to your website and they've booked a call with you or sent you an email, they're 90% over the line. And then once they're on the call with you, the conversion's 90% as well. Like, it's very rare for once someone connects with you, they've already been told about you, that they're going to book and work with you as well.
Absolutely. So you touched on it very briefly before, Prue. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business academy, the Go-To Photographer?
Yes, so it was a bit tricky to come up with for the name for it, and it was when I was writing the website copy, and ultimately the goal of the business academy is to make you the go-to photographer for what you love to shoot. And because I really believe in the importance of having a great brand message about who you are, as I mentioned before, and what you do, we work through, there's 6 modules, and it goes from mindset. So being super clear about what your vision and your mission is as a photographer, weaving in your story and what's unique about you as well. So what do you really love to shoot? Or it might not necessarily what you love to shoot, but your style of shooting. And then we move into branding. So then weaving that all together with a clear brand message, good copy, and then you've got your logos and your colors and those things. So a lot of people think branding is just that visual stuff. And a lot of photographers just have websites of amazing photos and like a small paragraph as a bio and a contact. And people come to the page and go, well, this person's photography is amazing, but I don't know who they work with. How much they charge, what their services are, how do I work with them, are they busy or not? And I actually got this feedback, so I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but I remember I was a part of this networking group and this guy said, oh, your photos look great, but like you look really expensive and it's a bit intimidating. And this was like my first year out of uni, and I'm like, just book me, I need a job. Like, I'm happy to shoot anything, literally. And so I really took that advice on, and I was like, I need to make it, not change my photography, keep it at that high level, but add in stuff to get people to take action to actually work with me and book me as well. So yeah, we do branding, and then we go into money. So getting super clear on how much it is that you need to make to live, because we want to create businesses that support our lifestyle, just as much as, you don't want to just have a business and you're working 24/7, which a lot of people end up doing, especially in the early years, because you become obsessed with what you do. And then from there, we work out your prices and we create packages, and they're not just packages like half day, 5 shots, that kind of thing. Actually learning to write your packages that sell on value. So the value you give to your clients and what that means for them. So what they're going to achieve and how their lives are going to change from working with you. And then we go into workflow. So I share all my back end business, how I've just totally streamlined it. And Studio Ninja is a major part of that. That was a game changer when I discovered it maybe 5 years ago. So I'm obsessed with it and tell every photographer to join it. And also like proofing, editing, doing retoucher notes, all those kinds of things. And then clients, like all my client communication, my email templates, how to set boundaries with clients and how to convert them from your website into getting on the phone and booking a job with you and making that really streamlined. None of these emails back and forth and giving away all your ideas and they run off and do it with another photographer. And then once you've got all those foundations in place, and then we work on the marketing, from the most effective marketing ways to the least. And Instagram is on there, but it's definitely not the top marketing platform I find. So I share all my secrets to how I've grown my website traffic and my business that way as well. So I pretty much give everything away I've learned in 12 years. Plus I realized a few weeks ago, I've invested over $100,000 on business development and coaches myself. So everything that I've learned, that I could never find a course that really specialized for commercial and branding photographers, I've put into this, just tailored for photographers. So I'm very passionate about it.
Like a total blueprint, like everything you could need to know.
Yeah, exactly. And I just see like, in Australia alone, there's over 2 million small businesses. They all need photography, they all need content. And then there's all these photographers, and I hear a lot from, some photographers in my network where they're struggling to get work or they're undercharging, burning themselves out. And I'm like, okay, we really need to close this gap and also make it more approachable. Like I remember when I started out, I couldn't ask any photographer, how much should I charge? They were so cagey. No one wanted to share any information. Everyone was like, oh no, they're going to steal my business. There's enough for everyone. There's plenty of room out there. And that's why it's important to be really unique and specialized in what you do.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with that. I think there's still sometimes an element, isn't there, of, oh no, I need to keep my secrets guarded. And I think that's so amazing that, you've created this course where it's no holds barred. It's totally all the information that you've learned. Here it is. People don't have to go and make their own mistakes. They can learn from the ones that you've made over the last 12 years, learn from your learning curves, and, essentially, I guess, fast track that process for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm very passionate about, helping them along the way. There is a formula, there's a way to do it, and everyone can do. Really, like, I'm very passionate about people being able to do something that they love. And yeah, just set those goals high and really work towards it, because you can make anything happen.
Absolutely, definitely. So you've touched briefly there on a bit of kind of website in the conversation we were just having there. Are there missed opportunities that branding commercial photographers are missing out on when people are looking through their website?
There is definitely so much more opportunity that photographers can add to their website to convert clients. So I know a lot of people have incredible photography, but they're just not getting people send an inquiry or reach out to them. So a few things I would include is talk about who it is that you work for and what problems that you solve for them. For example, if you're a food photographer, you could say, I work for cafes creating their social media content so they can be seen in social media, or describing the type of photography you do. So I create mouth-watering food photography for cafes and restaurants in Melbourne, so they've got consistent branded content for their social media. So then when a cafe owner lands on that, they're going to be like, oh, they're speaking to me, and they're answering my biggest problem, what I need to do. What's the next step? So you could talk about, include your packages, or even just your process and how you actually work with people. So they're like, okay, so I need to send them an email, and then we design a shoot. They come and do the shots. They send me, proof images and what you deliver for them. And then there's also your bio. So really sharing what your values are and your story and what makes you special. Why are you the best food photographer for them to work with? What's your background? Did you work in hospitality for 10 years? So you really understand the industry. And then having a call to action. So a CTA, you may have seen this written around, but a big clear button for people to go book a shoot. Mm-hmm. I remember I had some of my business girlfriends, we were doing like a bit of a mastermind together. And so I got them to review my website. This was about 8 years ago. And they said, give me feedback. And they go, well, how do I book a shoot with you? And I was like, oh yeah, how silly is that? And so from then I had just a big book a shoot button on the homepage as soon as you landed there. And I actually used a heat map to see where people went on my webpage. And it was so used, it increased my, my leads and inquiries. So that's a huge one. And then on your contact page, you can add on another thing. Instead of just a contact form for their inquiry, why not have a book a call button? You could choose 1 or 2 days a week, sync it with your calendar, where people can just book a call directly with you. And that means it's in your calendar. You can prepare for it. You can look at that business or that person's social media, get to know them a little bit. Maybe it allows you to have a few ideas for their business that you might want to create, and gets them on the call. And once people are on a call with you, if the connection's good and they like you, they're going to book you. So they're probably some of my best tips to add to your website.
I love that. They're perfect tips. Thank you so much. We touched before on pricing and that whole kind of, not knowing where to price yourself, especially when there wasn't as much guidance in the industry as you would have liked. So fast forward that to now, how do you find confidence in your own pricing? What's your advice to others when kind of looking at their pricing? I know that it's part of your course, isn't it, in the business academy, but any tips that you could perhaps give to our listeners would be great.
Yeah, sure. So again, it goes back to creating that niche and be really known and specific about what it is that you shoot so that you become memorable, because becoming the go-to photographer, it then eliminates options. So they're not like looking at all the other personal branding photographers because they know that you specifically do personal branding for this person or shooting food for this person. And growing that. And then there were definitely a few times, I feel like every time I had a bit of a personal growth spurt or troubles going on in my business, it was because I needed to up my prices. I kind of would get to a stuck stage. And I'm like, oh, why am I not getting anywhere? I was like, all right, here we go. We've got to do a bit of personal growth for business growth, and always resulted in putting my prices up. So there's that aspect as well. So understanding your self-worth, but also really understand how much money you need to live. Really go back to basics. Do a personal budget. And I actually teach a money masterclass on budgeting and business, which if you're on my database, I send out an email about when I run this. And once you understand that, it takes the stress off. So many people are like, oh, I want to make more money. I want to make more money. But they don't even understand how much money they've already got and is that working for them, and how much money they actually need. You need to decide how much money it is that you want to actually be making. And then when it comes to actually pricing yourself, try your best to move away from selling your time for money. So going, I'm $250 an hour. Instead, move towards packages. So for example, I went from having a headshot package, I think it was like $3.95 for an hour and 3 headshots. Now my minimum is $1,500 for up to 2 hours and 10 images. But I sell that on creating your profile images for your social media, your press kit, any speaking events and conferences you got to go to, because I understand what that specific client wants. That's for like CEOs and executives, and I know what they want, and I just have to make it sound really good so it taps into their wants and needs. And they don't even budge on the price. It's pretty much the same thing as I used to charge, but way less effort, and it's just easier. So I hope that all makes sense. Sorry, what did you say?
Yes, it's all down to how you word it.
It is. It comes down to wording and the value that you add to the client and answering their needs. Like one of my students was saying, I had this business call me. They wanted me to do a photo shoot, and I asked what they want, and they're like, I don't know what I want. And that's where you really need to even understand more than what your client knows about what they want and need. And when you create a niche, you can really, you've got the capacity to be able to really dive into that. Whereas if you say, I shoot food and architecture and portraits and weddings, that's a lot of people to understand what they actually need for their business. Whereas if you really rein that in and laser focus it, going narrow and deep allows you to build your brand a lot quicker and bigger. This doesn't mean that I lose opportunities. Like, I still sometimes shoot. I actually shot an event, which I haven't shot an event for years, but it was for a great business for International Women's Day this year. Usually I would say no, but I get asked to shoot kids' products and interiors, and if I feel like it, I'll do it, but most of the time I'll refer them to other photographers I know that now specialize and have become the go-to photographer for shooting that thing. And the same thing happens. Other photographers send me work. And this is the great thing when you really narrow down then network with other photographers. You can share work amongst each other.
Absolutely, definitely. It's a nice community to be a part of when you get to that point, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So you mentioned briefly about your business and not overworking and not consuming it 24/7. I think that's a really a really popular thing to happen, isn't it? It's really common that, especially like you say, in the first few years, photographers most definitely just eat, sleep, and breathe their business. They're trying to get it off the ground. So how could you make your business work for you rather than you working for your business?
Well, I firstly think, getting clear on the money thing. So how much you actually need to work and live, and then get clear on how much it is that you actually want to work. So my very first step was like, right, no more weekends, no editing on weekends, none of that. I am a bit sneaky. Like, I like doing my emails on a Sunday night now and scheduling them for 8 a.m. Monday morning, because then I just feel I'm starting the week with a clear inbox. Yeah. And then I set boundaries around not working at night, because I'm a morning person. If I'm up all night and then I'm tired all day the next day, and it's just, I'm not going to be the best photographer or person to everyone. So setting those boundaries, and then understanding how much it is that you can actually work. So I remember I used to shoot 4 days a week, and then I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have any energy to hang out with friends and do fun things on the weekend. So then I went down to 3 days a week, and now it's 2 days a week, but I'm mainly focusing on doing my business coaching and mentoring now. And 2 days a week was perfect, because I could book a 1 full day shoot, and then I'd just book 2 smaller jobs on the Tuesday. And that was more than enough to cover my business expenses, pay myself, invest extra money. So just once you understand the money and how much you need to work, you really create this healthy bubble for yourself with a business that supports your lifestyle. And what that also means is that you start getting booked up, and so you create a wait list, and then it creates this sense of like, oh my God, this person's amazing. Like, if I want to work with them, I'm going to have to wait, 6 weeks to work with them, and I'll do that. And it also makes them understand that, wow, they cost that much to work with. They see the value in that too. So, yeah.
I love that. That's perfect. And now, we haven't touched on this, but as well as being an incredible business owner, a business coach, you're also a mum. How on earth do you balance it all?
Well, there wasn't much balance in the beginning. So I found out I was pregnant on the way to moving to Melbourne to study photography. And my daughter conveniently arrived in the mid-semester break in the middle of the year. And 3 weeks later, I rolled her into my first class back. And I remember it was my graphic design teacher, Bill Burrows. I was like, sorry, I'm late. I had a baby. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm not going to give up my life just because I'm a mum now. Like, I'm still going to pursue my passions. And, it hasn't been an easy road, definitely not. And creating boundaries, I learned early on that you can't be a mum and working at the same time. I couldn't have her just crawling around while I'm like editing and sending emails and stuff. So I made sure to compartmentalize my time and go, right, so when I'm with her and I'm present. And then when I'm at work 100%. And I know you're a soon to be mum, and you will value time like never before, and realize how precious every second and minute of your day is. And so you just learn to set those boundaries. And that's why I had to shape my business to work for me as well. So I've also been an independent or single mum the last 6 years too. So that makes it even a bit harder. But I was like, no, I can do this. I know I want to be a photographer. I absolutely love what I do. And I've always just worked towards making it happen and work for me as well.
Definitely. I mean, it's just running a business on its own is a task in itself, isn't it? But then bringing in, having a child as well. I'm already kind of forward forecasting and thinking, this needs to be organized. This needs to be organized. I need to be on the ball with this and this and this. And it's just having the tools to do that, I think, isn't it? And making sure that you're in the right mindset, that, like you say, when you're with your child, and when you're working, it's business time.
Yeah, because they can see when you're not being present with them. And so just filling their cup and being present with them. Like when they get older and they want lots of attention and to talk a lot, just making sure you really fill their cup for the day. And that can just be, you know, sitting down and playing with them for 15 minutes, and then they kind of go and do their own play, and then you can do a block of work then as well.
I love that.
Yeah, and then there's great things like, I must say, there's one app I love called Plan to Eat, where you can actually schedule all your meals and all the ingredients go into a shopping list. And that is the one thing I love, because planning every meal for the week and doing food shopping can be so time consuming. So just finding little, you know, hacks to make your life simpler, and always ask yourself, is there an easier way to do this?
Absolutely. Always the simplest, easiest route.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. Now, Prue, if you could start your career all over again, let's go back before you were a photographer, before you had your daughter. Is there anything you would do differently? Anything you would change?
I can't say there's anything that I would change. I would say I used to ask my dad a lot and say, Dad, what should I do with my life? You know, there's a lot of those times in your early 20s, you're like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? And you feel like everything's falling apart and you're having a quarter life crisis. And he would always say, do what you want to do, just trust. And so really just being clear about what you want to do and moving towards that, and having the belief that you can actually do that. Something that has been huge for me is I've always invested in personal growth and my mindset. They're your greatest asset. And when you invest in those, and I also am a big meditator, I've been meditating for 6 years, gives you a really clear mind. And yeah, just investing in yourself just creates growth and belief and allows you to do whatever you want to do in life.
I love that. And if you could add a final piece of advice, something that you feel is the big takeaway from today's episode, what would you say that one piece of advice would be?
I would say set your goals and your visions big, and tap into that feeling that you're there and that you've achieved that, and bring that into your life and where you are now. So live and feel and believe that you have already achieved everything that you want to achieve. And it's funny, I've been watching Ted Lasso this last week. I'm a little bit late to the table because I know everyone was watching it last year. And his belief, you know, he's got the big sign in the football change room, and being really clear on what it is that you want. And I feel like that's quite hard these days because we've got so many options, but just choose one. You know, it can change. Choose something really big and amazing that you want to do with your life, and just move towards it. Trust and believe that you can achieve whatever you want in this lifetime.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Prue. If our listeners would like to find out more about you, chat with you, find out more about the Go-To Photographer Academy, how can
the best place to find me is on Instagram. So jump on there and connect with me. I'm at prueaja.co. And then there's links to the Go-To Photographer from there, and all the other workshops and things that I run. And I really share a lot of my personal life and lessons and learnings on there as well. So jump on, say hi, send me a DM.
Amazing. That's perfect. Thank you so much, Prue. This has been an amazing episode. I've definitely learnt loads, and I now need to go and get some branding photos.
Yeah, tap into what's unique about you.
Absolutely, definitely. But thank you again for carving out the time. I know that you must be so busy, especially with everything we've just touched on in the episode as well. But hopefully we'll be able to catch up in person one day soon.
I would love that. Thanks, Sally.
Amazing. Thanks, Prue. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, that's everything from me today. Thank you so much again to Prue for coming and sharing all of her knowledge and top tips on branding. If you'd like to see the show notes, you can head to www.studioninja.co/episode 62. As always, please don't forget to rate us on the podcast platform that you're listening on. A little bit of love goes a very long way. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NinjaCast, brought to you by Studio Ninja. Beautifully designed and super easy to use, Studio Ninja will help you manage your leads, clients, shoots, invoices, contracts, workflows, and so much more. To learn more or start your 30-day free trial, go to www.studioninja.co.